And there's thousands upon thousands of people on the planet doing what I'm doing. And there's thousands and thousands of others, millions of others who are doing other stuff that I couldn't even go near, but have a part in what I'm doing.
Mm. What's the best way you can describe whoever or whatever it is that you get your information from, like you're targeting information from? What is all that about? What is this source of information, direction, whatever?
It comes through various different levels. One of them that I can describe very quickly, because I have a focus on both, is the formlessness of oneness, which is part of all, right? Like the divine source.
The ultimate unity.
Right, right. That's outside of time-space. And it would be like a spark of that came in to do a certain work. But the reason it did, you see, because it has no attachment really to what really happens on the planet, if you think about it. And the attachment or the request came in from other beings and level people. Like there was a big call from the planet as an entity and light beings within the planet saying, help, right? To do this, we need help. And that call went out. And it wasn't just a planetary call, it was also from other beings around in the galaxy, which will be affected by what happens on the planet. Maybe not today, but maybe in 1,000,000 years. And that call was like huge, a huge call from sentient consciousness to have some sort of intervention on the planet, to allow it in this timeline, to allow it to make the shift that it's supposed to make, and it's trying to be stopped by the negativity. So it was a huge call, and that's why beings like myself can come into time-space and do this, because it's a response to that call. The planet has a trajectory that it's following naturally. It's an evolutionary trajectory.
You mean of like the culture, the civilization, the people who live there?
Everything.
Okay.
The plants, the rocks, the water, the people, the whole thing is one entity. Even though people think, oh, we are on the planet and we were put here, so we're not really off the planet. That's an illusion, because they're made of what the planet's made out of, physically speaking. Like the flesh is made out of the same material. It came from the planet, is being fed by the planet, is part of the planet. It's all an integrated one being with different levels of consciousness inside it, including the human collective and other collectives from other sentient beings that are on the planet and have been here for millions of years. And this planet as a unit has a trajectory of evolution. And what's been happening is that this particular juncture and in this particular timeline, there's forces who are trying to stop that evolution because it's not profitable for it to evolve in their view, right?
Okay.
And then we come into like laws of existence. For this to exist, you have laws. You have the law of free will, for example, that's being violated all over the place in this planet. You have the law of time-space, the trajectory that most people would experience of linear time is a law. And laws are kind of agreed rules that the being comes in to play a game.
The rules of the game.
Right. So if all of a sudden the rules are being violated, the majority of players can turn around and say, bring in a referee, because this is an unfair game.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. This is fascinating, because many years ago I knew somebody who was doing something very similar to what you were doing, and he called himself an arbiter.
Oh, yes.
And he referred to a number of other arbiters that he was aware of.
Yeah.
And this is a whole conversation we haven't had yet.
Mm.
He was the most wonderful man, and he said he'd get quite a kick out of the situation where he'd just roll up in a particular situation psychically, and then these nasty evil beings would just take one look at him and run. And of course, you'd always go and get them.
Right.
You know, there's a whole story that we can tell. But that was my first. See, this is quite interesting. This is my first experience with somebody like that, and I was instrumental in supporting him in attaining the abilities which he was then able to use to. I mean, he ended a war, for example. Single-handedly. It's a whole story about how he did all that. Back to where we were talking about you were coming in to handle a situation where rules had been violated,
right,
or where agreements had been violated.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, basically what's happening on the planet right now is extremely negative, and well, on a physical level, there's a violation of free will, because if you keep a collective asleep, what decisions they make is being influenced by those who are awake, and it's not really free will.
It's a bit like stopping people from voting.
Right.
Yes, sure.
Or, yeah, just taking their bodies over like they're sleeping and doing it for them, you know? So that's not really free will. So that's one of the things that's being violated. And then all the wars and all the other negativity, fear. The vibration of fear is what's the makeup or the building block of negativity. And the planet's being bombarded, the planet's humans, the collective, is being bombarded with fear by a very few people on the planet, right? Like the ruling elite are bombarding the entire population, the entire planet with fear, through television, through wars, through crime, perpetuating all these things, even music. And that's also a violation of what's supposed to happen here.
Right.
It's like a complete bombardment.
Right. So your role basically is a bit like a referee or an umpire in a game. It's to make sure that the game is played fairly and according to the rules, and if anyone is transgressing those rules, then
Foul.
they're kind of right. Then they're brought into line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And every now and then you send someone off the pitch.
Right.
Okay. So you're talking about within the context of a setup of a particular game that's got some kind of boundaries,
Right.
or delineation to it, that whatever the game is, then your role is to ensure that that game is played as it was originally conceived and agreed to be played by the players.
Right, unless the players all agreed that they want to change the game.
I understand. Okay.
And there wasn't an agreement on the planet. On this planet does not want to be in the negativity anymore.
I got that. Okay, okay. Now, is this, do you think, a one-off intervention? Is this about changing timelines, and that once those points are switched on the railroad track, then beings like you with a functionality like you will no longer have to be here?
Yes.
That's a good answer.
And it is about timelines, because there's other timelines in this planet that this is not happening. And there's timelines where everything is resolved already.
Does that mean then that in those other timelines the parallel Inelia isn't there, because she doesn't have to be?
Right.
Okay. So in all of these parallel realities, Inelia is only here in those versions of reality where she's needed,
Right.
where things haven't got screwed up. Or sorry, where things have got screwed up, whereas other places they haven't.
Right, but there's different levels.
Okay.
And this is something, when I first came in as this timeline, in this timeline, because